All right, Shalom. I want to start off first and foremost by giving all the honor, all the praise, and all the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Arachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the tabernacle of David, the hopeful elect, that are scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And I've been meaning to do a personal lesson in response to a couple of videos that was done, which was in response to, I want to say it was an audio. I don't know if it was on Clubhouse. I don't know, where the platform was, but you had that demon Hasad. He was going back and forth with another Israelite. I don't know what camp they belong to, but I've been meaning to go into this particular video and kind of dissect what was being said, because at the end of the day, even though we have this opposition, and it's mainly coming from traitors, guys that couldn't endure sound doctrine, guys that they were beguiled and removed into a whole nother gospel, more than likely because they've been seduced and paid off. So even though we have this opposition, we still use these arguments and strongholds, and it opens up more layers of understanding for us to be able to attack these type of arguments and teachings. And it pretty much, opens up and lifts up, the understanding of our listeners, the students, those of you that are tuning in and constantly watching and taking notes, because you got to be on a level. You got to be able to use discernment when these false prophets, these false teachers, are presenting perverse things, which, the warning was given by Apostle Paul that, you're going to have, grievous wolves that shall enter in among us, not sparing the flock, but they shall, speak perverse things to heap disciples, unto themselves, to turn you away from the faith to follow them. So that's what we're seeing right now with some of these guys that are, rebelling against the true established teachings of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All right. So we use it and we edify. So without further ado, I'm gonna just play the video. This is the beginning of the video that the elder Karatazaba from Baltimore had did, and he was responding to the video Apostle Tahar did. Now, I've been meaning to to do my lesson on it, but the spirit haven't had it to where I had the time to be able to do it. But now, I'm now that I got the time, I'm just gonna go into it. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Now, hey, that ain't my problem. That's your problem. Going back to Romans chapter 5, verse 12. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men. When did death pass upon all men? It's a short question.
Yeah, when sin entered into the world, that's what the scripture said.
Okay, through Adam, yes? Okay, and that was through Adam, yes or no? Okay, and that affected Adam's descendants, correct? All of Adam's descendants? Okay, so this death that passed upon all men means all of Adam's descendants, yes?
Yes.
Okay, do we all descend from Adam? So, okay, for the record then, let everyone understand the record and let the record show. All men contextually means everyone who descends from Adam. Means all human beings. Thank you. I agree.
So let me pause it right there real quick. See, Hasad is pretty much he's playing mind games with guys that are not on a level. And that's no disrespect to the Israelite brother that was on the platform, because, you know, when I heard it, you know, and him asking these type of questions, you could tell that the guy that he's debating, the guy really didn't have the answers. So he got frustrated and emotional and started to personally attack Hasad. That's something that you don't do. We're supposed to be able to study to answer. You're supposed to answer every man. Like the scriptures say, let your speech be seasoned with grace and with salt, how you ought to answer every man. All right. Now, if it's foolish and it doesn't edify, then you just you don't buy into it. All right. You just agree to disagree. But you don't want to get emotional and go on a personal attack, because then that's when you start to lose the argument. All right. Now, dealing with a guy like Hasad, which I believe he's been gaining this through, you know, he studied up under Al-Azhar, and those dudes, you know, they're just straight debaters. Their whole job, he learned this craft of being under Al-Azhar. They want to be the daggermen to just cut people. So they study to try to be sharp so they can get the better end of an argument if they're going head to head with you. So you basically got to know the scriptures just like they know the scriptures to deal with them. All right. Or else they will have you on the ropes. You know, they studied under us. And that's why I believe, you know, them taking this turn all of a sudden, it has me to believe that these guys could be paid agents. Because one thing an agent will do is they'll come in to an organization, infiltrate, learn the organization, learn, you know, every tenant, learn, you know, the teachings, the principles, you know, the fundamentals. They get it all down packed, and then they can use it against you when they need to, you know. So we're dealing with the same, you know, thing. He's trying to use craft and guile on this guy with the wording of his questions. And then, you know, dealing with the meaning of certain words and terminologies is no different than what vocab and these Christian apologists do. All right. So you got to be very careful with that, man. What the Lord meant when he said, I'll send you in the midst of wolves, therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. You don't want to physically harm anyone. You don't want to have any type of altercations. You know, you still want to be gentle, but being wise as a serpent, meaning you match their wittiness, you match their craft, because Hasad is trying to use craft with his wording and questions against that man, and that man didn't know how to really deal with it. All right, and let me get a quick script, because you're gonna have men that they'll know the scriptures, but they're gonna use craft and deceit. Let me get Ephesians, and this is what Paul was talking about. This is why you got to be, you know, trained as a child, making you wise unto salvation. So you got to, you know, study to show yourself approved. All right, you got to, you know, learn these scriptures, man. Ephesians 4, and I'll start at verse 12. Matter of fact, I'll start at verse 11. It says, and he gave some apostles. All right, we got the apostles, all right, which means to be sent, all right, and some prophets. And the prophets, they're going to have the Spirit upon them so they can discern and you know how to break down the mysteries of the prophecies. And some evangelists, you know, teachers of the good news, all right, and some pastors and teachers, prophets and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying, the building up of the body of Yahushua. And we're building up your faith as well as your understanding. All right, through all these different corrections, reproof videos, exhortations, etc. It says, till we all come in a unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of the Most High, to a perfect man. Right, you're not wanting in anything, because you've been growing. All right, which Yahweh Shai, you know, he being that example that you should follow, right? Unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Hamashiach, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine. And this is why he was saying to the church of Rome to mark, you know, any man, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them. Yahushua said, my sheep hear my voice, and they follow me. They hear not the voice of strangers. So you want to be trained in the word of the Most High, in sound doctrine, and that you don't be easily swayed or removed from it. All right, he said to continue in the things that thou hast learned and have been assured of. All right, knowing what you have sureness, right? You have confidence that what you learn is the true doctrine leading to your salvation. And knowing who you learned it from. You learned it from the apostles and bishops and elders of Great Millstone, right? It says, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. And they have a Hasad, Hakad, they have a deceptive spirit on them. All right. You can tell that they've been around these theological seminary self-proclaimed scholars. All right. You know, men that went to theological seminaries and got their degrees. So they look to these men for the wisdom and not for the Holy Spirit to guide them. And men that are inspired by the Most High to guide them. Now, their former leader was once guided by these men, but because of his disobedience, he got ousted. He was removed from the body. All right, but he continued in most of what he learned from up under them for a certain period of time, him and Hakah. But over the years, the man was waxing worse and worse because he was self-willed and presumptuous. He no longer had that guidance, you know, of having elders, men that will watch over your soul. So his doctrine and his conduct started to become more and more corrupted and tainted. You know, going over there with those House of Conscious cats, where all they do is just debate and don't get anywhere, you know, basically Mars Hill. And now you got that Mars Hill spirit even within Israel. So now we got to debate everything under the sun now, when we're clearly getting ready to approach the finish line. And it's about to be the you know, we at the end of the obstacle, that's when it's the most difficult. You don't need no distractions at all during that time. But that's where these guys come in. So our job is to basically take those impediments out of the way so that we can finish this obstacle course. So that's, you know, when we dealing with this madness from these turncoats and these false prophets and teachers, that's essentially what we're doing, defending the gospel. But anyway, dealing with the last part, the last line of this passage where it says, and cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive. And that's clearly what Hasad is doing in this back and forth. He's basically using guile and craft. And we could sense that based on the scriptures that he's going to use his choice of scriptures and the way he's wording his questions. He's using craft. Like when Apostle Paul, when he saw that that demon Elymas the sorcerer, when he was basically trying to beguile that deputy, right? And Paul basically, he peeped it and said, thou child of the devil, O full of all subtlety. You know, because that guy was basically trying to withstand what was sown in the heart of that deputy. He was basically trying to take away which was sown in his heart, going back to that parable. So Paul cussed him out because he peeped the subtlety, the craftiness. He was trying to overthrow the faith of the deputy, trying to get him to change his mind. And that deputy, he was well studied. All right? Because a simple believeth every word, but the prudent look well to his going. That deputy happened to be a prudent man. So Paul cursed that dude out and then cursed him with blindness. And they wonder why brothers is sending them up on these niggas, man, because they clearly are coming in the spirit of Satan. Hey, and cool, you know the scriptures now because you studied. You're under a man who studied under us for a period of time, right? But hey, the devil know the scriptures too. That's proven when Yahweh Shai went up on the pinnacle of that mountain and conversed with the devil. The devil was he was bringing precepts, and Yahweh Shai was matching his craft, his wittiness. Because you got to be sharp in these scriptures, man. That way, guys like this can use trickery on you. So anyway, let's finish listening to this.
With that being said, in verse 18, Paul continues on that same topic that he just agreed to all men contextually within Romans 5, pos and anthropos, being all human beings who descend from Adam. And then goes.
See, so when they were under Sakari, I'm pretty sure he would have taught it a different way. Because you know, when the Lord made man in their in the beginning, when you read was that Genesis the 5th chapter. As a matter of fact, let me go to it. Let's go to Genesis 5 and at the top. Because when the Lord made man and he basically, you know, through the angels said, you know, let them be male and female, right? And they're going to be made after the Lord's likeness and in his image, right? The descendants of Adam is talking about the chosen line, which is the sons of God, all right? Genesis 5 and 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam in the day that the Most High created man, and in the likeness of the Most High made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. And then you read further all the way down to the bottom. This is the generations of the sons of God. It was through Adam's fall that the sons of God went from being immortal to mortal, simply because of what happened in the garden between Eve and the serpent, and what Eve caused when she went to Adam. She was seduced. She was beguiled by the serpent, learned the ways of death when we was not supposed to eat of the tree of good and evil, going to these other nations, the other classifications, which were the sons of men, and then you also have the sons of wicked. She went and learned, and then in turn went to Adam and basically seduced him. And that's what opened up Pandora's box. And because of that, we had to basically the price of that, the penalty was death. All right. So let's go from there. And let's go to Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter. Oops. This is Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 23. I'll start at 22. It says, as for the mysteries of the Most High, they knew them not, neither hope they for the wages of righteousness, nor discern a reward for the blameless souls. For the Most High created man to be immortal, because we were made to be in his likeness, right? In the image. Going back to what I just read in Genesis, the 5th chapter, the way that he showed to Adam, because Adam was the son of the Most High, that way was to be carried down the line, all right, through the sons of God. And they didn't keep it because they intermingled with the daughters of men when you read the following chapter. All right, that's why it says, for the Most High created man to be immortal, and made him to be an image of his own eternity, dealing with the sons of the power. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side, and they that do hold of his side do find it. All right, the ways of death, which is what? Sin. We wouldn't have known death but by sin. It was because of death. It was because of sin that death crept in and reigned over us. All right. So, and that's why when you go to 1 Corinthians, it referred to the Lord as the first Adam and then the second Adam. 1 Corinthians 15. Yeah, first Corinthians 15 and 20, it says, but now is Mashiach risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. For since by man came death, for since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, meaning us. All right, we all die. We were given the chains of darkness, the bondage of corruption. So now, like it says in Romans, was at the 8th chapter, that we will be redeemed from under the bondage of corruption unto the glorious sons of the Most High. And we were made subject, to vanity, not willingly, but we were subjected to the hope. And what is our hope? Our earnest expectation is to be redeemed from these bodies so that we can be delivered from this body of death, these death traps. That's not given to the whole entire world, man. That's only given to the sons of God, who later became the children of Israel. So that's who this is talking about. When we go back to Romans 5, because that's where he's quoting from. Yeah, death came unto all men, but it affected the sons of God who were meant to be immortal from the beginning. They fell from that first estate. It says, so even so in a Mashiach shall all be made alive. And it starts with us getting this understanding. All right, once we heard this word, we will be resurrected unto life. All right, we will be revived and quickened by the Spirit, man. The Lord will put his breath back into us and we will become living souls again because we were spiritually dead. All right. Continuing on, it says, but every man in his own order. Yahushai, the first fruits afterward, they that are Hamashiachs at his coming, then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom of the Most High, even the Father, when he have put down all rule and all authority and power. That's what he's come, and that's what he's coming to do. All right. And then he's also coming to put an end to death for the saints of the Most High, the children of Israel. So let me jump down. And this is this is 1 Corinthians 15 and 41. It says, there is one glory of the sun and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, for one star differeth from another star in glory. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, right? We're born in these sinful flesh, right? It was that in Philippians where it says he shall save us from these vile bodies, because it's subject to corruption, right? It's subject to decay. It's subject to pain, sorrow. It says it is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. Just like Yahushai. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. So it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. When the Lord, breathed life into Adam, he gave him the understanding. He gave him the commandments. After he gave him the 7 cogitations, the main one that was given to him was what? Understanding. And that's what made him a living soul. Then he was able to have dominion and authority, over the animals, the earth. It says the last Adam was made a quickening spirit, and that's Yahushua, because he was a quick. Matter of fact, let me go to it. And what does it mean to be quickened? Right? Let's go to Isaiah 11. This is Isaiah 11:11. It says, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord, and shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. So he was gonna be born of the Holy Spirit, walking in the spirit of wisdom. The entire time that he came on the earth in that incarnation, all right, as Yahushua Mashiach, despite being a son of the carpenter, marrying Joseph's son, all right, his people, they knew him as an ordinary kid. They didn't think of him as the son of the Most High, all right, because Yahushua didn't start to really, catch eyes until he started to perform, miracles, all right. But he was, the spirit was upon him, so he was a quickening spirit, all right. And this was what was needed in order for him to live a blameless life, to be that lamb without blemish, so that he can be that sacrifice, all right, that would be pure in the eyes of the Lord, to cleanse us as a people for the remission of our sins, all right. So that blood of Yahushua being the unblemished lamb, that would be I'm trying to think of the word, but basically that was basically what was needed, so that we would not have to have the animal sacrifice anymore. The Lord would be able to make changes, to the covenant, where we don't have to go under that old Levitical system anymore. All right. So what the Lord did for us, being in that sacrifice, is he redeemed us from the curse of the law. All right. So now, we have grace and mercy, and that'll suffice us until the second coming of the Lord, when he comes and we're changed. We're redeemed from these death traps you call the human bodies, man. All right, that's subject to sin. That's what's corruptible. It says the first man of the earth is earthy, the second man is the Lord from heaven. As is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy. And as is the heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. And that's when we undergo that metamorphosis. All right, just like Yahushua. All right, he was changed, and now he's in his glory. So we're gonna be changed during the resurrection and the day of judgment, and we're gonna be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and we're gonna be made in the image of the heavenly. All right, like it says in was that 1 John. This privilege is not for anybody else. It's literally for the sons of God who lost their first estate, which are the children of Israel. 1 John 3:1, it says, behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth not us, because it knew him not. All right, it doesn't know him because, they're alienated from the ways of righteousness. Okay, the Lord is known by his judgments that he executes. All right. Scriptures talk about um, basically this wisdom is what makes you nigh unto the Most High. Let me see if I can find it. I believe it's in Wisdom of Solomon 6. Yeah, this is Wisdom of Solomon 6, and I'll start at verse 18. It says, "And love is the keeping of her laws, and the giving heed unto her laws is the assurance of incorruption. And incorruption maketh us near unto the Most High. Therefore the desire of wisdom bringeth to a kingdom." All right. So let's go from there. Let's go to Sirach. Showing you that if we would have kept away originally and Eve didn't give in to the serpent, we would have still remained as immortal, keeping the ways of the highest. Sirach 19:19, it says, "The knowledge of the commandments of the Lord is the doctrine of life, and they that do things that please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality." All right. That's dealing with this wisdom, which was not given to everybody. It was only given to the sons of God. All right. So when you go to Romans 5, which is where he was going, where he's trying to take what happened in the garden in regards to Adam and apply it basically to all humanity. But we know when you read it in its truthful meaning, it's talking about how it affected the sons of God. Death came into the world, and the sons of God fell from their first estate. That needed to be redeemed. The only way for that to have been redeemed was for Yahushai to come in that lot as Yahushai and live a blameless life, walking in the spirit of wisdom. All right. And being pure, being blameless. Okay. Without sin. And then when he died, that sacrifice is what pretty much covered us. Okay. So this is Romans 5:12. It says, "Wherefore as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men." That all men is talking about Israelites. He sent this letter to the church of Rome. These were saints, beloved of the Most High, man, called to be saints. These were Israelites being reconciled back to the Father through the gospel that happened to be in Rome, Italy. So this letter is personal to these people. It's not to the entire planet Earth. So when he's talking about all men, the people that the listeners, the readers who is intended for, they understand the context of what he's saying here. It's you dudes that are using craft to take it out of context, trying to go into the words like, oh well, it says the word there is therpas, so that means all mankind. That means all humanity. No, that can be a definition, but that's not what's applied here, because that's not who Paul is talking to. All right. Hey, you can use their craft against them, like I said. When you go to what's that 1 Corinthians the 10th chapter, let's go to 1 Corinthians 10. And let's read this. 1 Corinthians 10:1. It says, "Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea." So does that mean all mankind? Because it says all passed through the sea. So that means all nations were there passing through the sea. Because that's how ridiculous these dudes sound when they try to read these scriptures for face value. They're trying to play word games, because you know it's easy to do that when you're reading the English, because English is a bastard language. A lot of words can be interpreted as vague. So you can tweak and play with it and use craft and guile. So you got to understand and read thoroughly through the scriptures, man. All right. Be like the church of Berea and be studious, so that the devil can't get over on you All right. And tried to seduce you. It says, and we're all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat. We know that this isn't talking about everybody. This was talking about Israel. It was all 12 tribes that passed through the sea. They were the ones that got that were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. All right, because they were being delivered out of captivity, being saved from their enemies. But soon as the Lord did an act of salvation for them, they went and they basically betrayed the Lord and started committing all kind of wickedness when they were in the wilderness, which is why majority of them didn't make it out of that wilderness. All the mistakes that Israel made. But I'm just using this as an example because it said how that our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. If you want to play those games and use what the scriptures say, the strife of words, because that's basically what they're doing. They're in the spirit of debate. All right, and that's an evil spirit to have, man. So going back, it says, wherefore as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. For until the law, sin was in the world. But sin is not imputed when there is no law. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the multitude of Adam's transgression, who was the figure of him that was to come. All right. So death reigned from Adam to Moses, because Adam, he was given what? He was given the standard. He was given the way. And it trickled down to his sons, his descendants, which were the sons of God, and they were to keep that legacy. All right. The commandments, which back then wasn't and it wasn't etched in stone yet. It was passed down orally and as a tradition from generation to generation. Okay, that's why Enoch, he was one of the ones who walked with the Most High in the later generations, because that legacy was still being preserved and kept. But Enoch, he was the main one who walked with the Father. He had that intimacy. He stayed faithful to that standard of righteousness. And the Lord was like, you know what, to prevent you from being corrupted by everything that's going on, I'm going to just take you from among them so that you don't be corrupted. Okay? Because the sons of God, they were basically in their fall. They were falling from their first estate. All right? And then down to Moses, we was given the law. You niggas, y'all been in long enough to know what sin is. Sin is the transgression of the law. So who was under sin? What people were under sin? Let's go to Romans 3 real quick. We're going to go to Romans 3 in the 23rd verse. And it says, let me do this. Yeah, this is Romans 3 and 19. I'm going to start at verse 19. It says, now we know that what things soever the law saith, it saith to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before the Most High. Is that talking about the entire inhabited planet Earth? Because the other nations, yeah, they're brutes. they're beasts. They're under no law. That's why they're the way they are, man. Okay? But it was us that were governed under a standard. We were given regulations, penalties, consequences. statutes to govern us. And when we broke the covenant, when we start to go off from that, we became guilty before the Most High, which is why we came up under the curse. These other nations, they get to prosper in sin. We don't prosper in sin. The Lord punishes us when we're in sin. He brings us down to the earth. Okay? He brings us low. And it's still happening to this very day. All right? But the Lord's putting the breath of life back into us. And we're standing on our feet. And the Lord's getting ready to exalt us, to the top of the mountain. All right? It says, therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin. You see that? And then justification by faith, which that was prophesied when you read Habakkuk. All right? That the just shall live by faith. So that was prophesied that the Lord was going to require a new standard of righteousness, which was really going back to the faith of Abraham. Okay? Being obedient, and it has nothing to do with trying to keep the law, by every jot and tittle, by the letter of the law, because we couldn't do that, not in these bodies. The fault was with us. All right? When you read 2nd Ezra, the 3rd chapter, it talks about that root of malignity. And when you read it in the GNT, it talks about that evil impulse, which was something that was naturally placed into us, which is that stony heart. And that's the reason why we can't keep the law perfectly. Okay? So when we was placed up under that law, man, we was done from the start. Even though you had certain men, righteous men, all right? But it was always a remnant. It was always far and few. The majority of our nation were always, rebelling and had that evil, corruptible nature. All right. So continuing on, it says, but now the righteousness of the Most High without the law is manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of the Most High, which is by faith of Hamashiach Yahushai unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. And that's talking about Jake. Or whether they know that they Israel or whether they don't. You don't know that you Israel, but you believe. You hear this gospel and you believe. You're no different than those that already know that they Israel. Okay? It says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of the Most High, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Hamashiach Yahushai, whom the Most High have set forth to be a propitiation through faith in his blood, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past, through the forbearance of the Most High, to declare, I say, at this time his righteousness, that he might be just and the justifier of him which believe in Yahushai. So who are going to be justified? Who's going to be redeemed? Because it said, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of the Most High. That was those who were under the law. Galatians 4 and 3. And it says, even so, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, the Most High sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. All right? So this is to those who were under the law. They had to be redeemed. All right? So going back to Romans 5, we needed a redeemer because of what Adam had did. Why you think Ezra said, "Oh Adam, for what hast thou done?" Because we had to suffer, this experience of sin and death as a result of what transpired with Adam. All right. So continuing on back in Romans 5, it says, but not as the verse 15, but not as the offense, so also is the free gift. For if through the offense of one may be dead, much more the grace of the Most High and the gift by grace, which is by one man, Yahushua Mashiach, have abounded unto many. And not as it was by one that sinned, so is the gift. For the judgment was by one to condemnation, but the free gift is of many offenses unto justification. Because it's going to be Israel that's going to be justified. Let's go to Ezekiel, was it the 37th chapter, towards the end? Let me just type this in. Isaiah 45 and 25, it says, "In the Lord shall all the seed of Israel be justified and shall glory." Okay. So it's going to Israel's who's going to be justified. So continuing on, it says, "For if by one man's offense death reigned by one, much more they which receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life by one, Hamashiach Yahushua. Therefore, as by the offense of one judgment came upon all men," that all men is talking about the sons of God, "to condemnation, even so by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life." Israel is going to be justified, right? "For as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous." Why? Because for all have sinned and fallen from the go back to Romans 3. Let's just go back to Romans 3. Romans 1 and 23, and it says, "For all have sinned and come short of the glory of the Most High, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Hamashiach Yahushua." All right. Who all sinned? Well, brother, it's talking about all men. You know? Thropos, brother. Anthropos, brother. Let's go to Daniel. Daniel 9 and 11, it says, "Yeah, all Israel have transgressed thy law," which is what? Sin. All Israel were under sin, even by departing, that they may not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of the Most High, because we have sinned against him. So we needed a redeemer. The world was not up under this. They was not under the original covenant. Only those that were under the original covenant needed that redemption. You see? Let me see. Let me read it in the AMP. It says, "Yes, all Israel has transgressed your law, even turning aside, not obeying your voice. So the curse has been poured out on us, and the oath which is written in the law of Moses, the servant of the Most High, because we have sinned against him." So this conclude that all Israel was under sin. All right. So that's how you understand what Paul is saying here in Romans, the 5th chapter. Right? Paul gave Peter gave the warning about the writings of Paul, man. And that's how you know the spirit is gone from them dudes. You know, trying to chase that academia, scholar, credential, reputation. They completely then lost the plot. They don't have the spirit working with them. So now they're making the same errors that the Christians do. All right. So, yeah, man. So you gotta, you know, when you hear this guy speak, you know, you gotta, you know, basically, because he'll talk fast. You gotta slow his ass down, and then hear every single word that he's asking, and peep the wittiness, and match that wittiness. Them dudes, you know, they got emotional, man. And see, I went almost an hour just answering or dealing with the first portion of his argument. I didn't even begin to go into what the argument he starts to make after, when he starts to go into First Timothy, the second chapter. That's a whole nother video. I could do a breakdown on that. Lord willing, if I got the time, I will, because we started going to it at camp yesterday, and we briefly touched it, but we didn't uncover the layers of it. All right. So Lord willing, if the Spirit permits me, I'll do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to end right there on that note. I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And until the next lesson, Shalom.